Let me ask you something. What if work became optional, not someday, but in the next 5 to 10 years, or maybe even 3 years? In this episode, we're going to take you behind the scenes of smart money decisions made by people who don't just want to retire, they want to retire on their own terms, from effort to equity. We're breaking down early retirement strategies for those who've already built serious momentum, whether through a thriving business, equity compensation, real estate, or disciplined investing. I'm Mo Param from Asset Management Group. Today, we're talking about something more successful professionals are asking us about early retirement, but not in the sell everything and live off rice and beans kind of way.
Welcome to the AMG podcast, helping you stay informed, stay empowered, and stay successful. We're here to help you build the life you were made for and prepare for what's next.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode on our channel. I'm Andrew Nida with Asset Management Group.
And I'm Mo Param with Asset Management Group. And today we're going to talk about something that a lot of clients have been asking us is how can they prepare themselves to retire early? It's a hot topic that most people are really preparing themselves for.
Yeah, we're also going to break down the whole word retirement. Right? Because, I mean, come on, it's a bit outdated. So we're going to get to that and really try to talk about what it takes to actually reach financial freedom at a decent age where you can live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like most life happens between, 25 and 55. And see, we're sitting here waiting to 65 to get to financial freedom.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about financial strategies such as layering your assets based off time horizon, making sure that you're adjusting your accounts for risk, and as well as cash flow. So stay tuned.
Look, we're going to keep it real. So make sure if you like this show, take time to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and follow us for additional shows just like this. All right, let's get to it.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to talk about early retirement. We first need to just take a step back and let's just break down this retirement discussion and this word. I think it's personally outdated.
Retirement?
I think the word retirement is outdated. Yeah, I mean, look, the old school, I'm going to go work for, a Fortune 100 company that offers a pension, right? And I'm going to go dedicate my life 35 years, 40 years to get vested, to get a watch and a paycheck. Like I think when people think of the word retirement, that's what they think of.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. When I think of the word retirement, first of all, I start to realize that, there really is no real evidence within, biblical scripture or anything of that sort that says that this is a way of life, that at some point, some season of life, you have to stop working. I think that the word retirement really should be replaced with financial freedom, where you're at a place in your life where you think that, okay, I have enough income sources from whether it's, Social Security, you talked about pensions, old school pensions or rental income or whatever it may, wherever your income sources may come from. I have enough income, I have enough assets. And between those two, I have enough to live. And the need for work is more optional. It's more of a desire if you want to work to generate some form of income, but it's no longer a need, right? And so I think, like you said, if it's old school or needs to be replaced, I'd say let's replace it with the words financial independence.
Oh, I like that. Financial independence, financial freedom.
Financial freedom, yeah.
Look, it's an old word for an old world, and the reality is retirement is not about a number. It's about freedom. It's about choice. It's not about an age.
No.
Like, and we see this all the time when we're meeting with, new prospective clients. The common, when you ask the question, matter of fact, our questionnaire, when we're meeting somebody, that's exactly what it says.
When do you want to
reach financial freedom? At what age are you trying to get to financial freedom? It's not about stopping work. It's about reaching this goal of choice. And oftentimes the default response to that is still about an age, because in the back of their mind they're still buying into what I believe are just like subconscious lies that we have adapted to in the financial industry. I gotta say 65 because the government has told me to say 65. Because that's when Medicare goes into effect. I've got to say 67 now because that's when the government says I should get full retirement benefits.
It's so crazy how, that you mentioned 65 because of Medicare, that the healthcare decision is probably number one when people think about retiring. They're like, oh, well, 65 because I can get Medicare. And so they literally, go to work every day. And as they get closer to that age, they're like, okay, I can retire now because I can get Medicare. And they've literally attached retirement to Medicare.
Yeah. And I mean, it really is that. I think that's the common myth. And so when we're talking about early retirement, we're talking about reaching financial independence, as you put it. Okay. We need to kind of build a roadmap here. Okay. Why is it actually possible? And is it really about a number? So let's just kind of break this thing down and talk about what are ways that our listeners and pathways that they need to follow to actually get to this independence. Okay. So first off, if they have a goal, okay, let's say I have a goal to reach this financial freedom choice that we're talking about. I want to get there at 55, Mo.
Okay.
Like, it's not about the number. It's not. I just want to have the option to go to work, not have to go to work.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about, like, first off, does that age 55? Do I need to have a number in mind?
I'd say one number you need to have in mind is how much income you'll need. Or let me put it this way. The lifestyle that you want at 55, how much income would that require? Right? So I think that's the first number that you should have in mind. Not, I need to have $1 million, $5 million, $10 million. We'll get to that point. We'll get to that number at some point. But at 55, you've got 3 boys, you're married, 55. So Drew you'll probably have some grandkids at that point.
Well, they better be out of my house.
They better be out of your house.
Yeah. 55, I've done something wrong if my boys are still in my house.
Yeah, Mama will still be there, though.
Yes, Mama will be there.
But, you'll have some grandkids, right? So who knows if Drew, Ben, and Jake are going to still be in Georgia. Jake's definitely going to be in Georgia. But, again, so all that being said is the lifestyle that you want to have at 55, how much income do you think that would require? And then if it's, that's the first number I think you should get to. And so if it's $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, $300,000, whatever that number is, I think that's the first thing we should define.
And I think it's you're making a good point. So let's say, I'm 15 years away from that. Okay. So I'm 15 years away from this age that I want to really make sure that I am experiencing financial freedom at. And then if I choose to work, I choose to work, right? So you're talking about having this number in mind. That's a long ways away, right? Life is totally different today.
Right.
Now, because I'm in the industry and because all we do is live and breathe finance, one thing that I know of is a way of understanding that number is in many ways a way of understanding how cash flow works through my life today.
Yeah.
You know? So sometimes I think a myth that's out there is people believe, well, I'll just be able to live off less when I retire and I'm no longer going to work. And that is 100% not always true. And I would not hang my hat on that. The reality is the best way is to look at your net income today, okay, and then figure out things that really are not going to go away. Sometimes you'll hear people say, well, I can live off of 60 to 70%. Well, if you can, you should be saving 30% of your income right now. So if you're not doing that, then your lifestyle is absorbing 100% of your net cash flow. So in this story about me and my family, I got 15 years left, okay? I know my boys are going to be out of the house once again. I've messed up if they're not, okay? So they're going to be out of the house. My house is going to be paid for, so I can move that item out of the budget. I'm no longer going to, have to hopefully save. If I want work to be optional, I shouldn't be forced to save past age 55. So really that's pushed away. I want to still have the option to be generous. So maybe I can do some things now also over the next 15 years. But I can really just kind of think through, is there any other element of like my life financially that you can think of that I can kind of piece together to really accurately try to detail that number at 55?
Yeah. I mean, that's doing an audit of your current cash flow and what your future cash flow would look like. So I think you're right. I mean, but I'd also say those things that you're subtracting, Now we start to add things back into it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So I mentioned to traveling, seeing your grandkids if they're in different states. I'd like to think of your financial independence as every day is a Saturday. And I don't know about you, but I spend the most money on Saturdays, filling my days with things I need to take care of, whether it is, that honey-do list or whatever it is, things I need to take care of for my lifestyle. But we're big golfers. You may be spending more time golfing. Golf lessons, yes. Maybe you and Amy want to travel. And so it's no longer, well, I got to get back to the office. I can't take, a week off because, I got to take care of meetings and blah, 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 blah. You can go away for a month if you want to. Mm-hmm. You can now take the kids and the grandkids away on vacation, and now you're absorbing that cost. So I'd say some of the things, yes, you take off, but also keep in mind of, if we're talking about financial independence and financial freedom, that word freedom or independence, I would say is having the freedom to do the wants that you really desire. Mm-hmm. So really do keep in mind, if it is a lifestyle or a life that you really want to have, then I would say if you're building this roadmap, be very careful of not trying to skim too much off the table. And be realistic and dream big. So I'd say yes, you're right. Some of the things that you're taking off, yes, they'll be off the table. But, I'd say dream big and put some things back on the table.
And I want to give a different version of this story because we're talking about, really a retirement using this dream big type of thought process. But being that you and I work with individuals that are literally transitioning to retirement all the time. All right. We're hand holding. Yeah. We've built the plan. We're walking them through this transition. I mean, oftentimes in my experience, we see people finally make this transition, especially those that are doing it, mid 60s or something like that. They've done well. They transition and then they find that they're debt free. They've got 2 Social Security benefits coming in. They may have a pension coming in. And they have all these assets, and they're like, I don't need it yet.
I don't need it yet.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, I wonder for those clients, if by the time they're experiencing retirement, 66, 67, 68, if they look back and they say, you know what? I was actually financially free at 58. Mm-hmm. And I could have done something about it.
Yeah.
If anything, I could have understood that to be true and lived a whole lot less stressful.
Yeah.
And reminded myself that every day I go into work, that if it's a bad day, out of all due respect, the reality is I don't have to be here.
Yeah.
I'm here because I have a skill set that I want to provide to the organization, but this is not mandatory. And so I want to also mention that if, let's say that my age 55 is not so much about the glamour of, buying an RV, traveling the world, going international, flying. For me, what if it's the reality is you and I know in this world we live in today, and this is for many different individuals and industries. I'm sure every individual out there that's an accumulator that's still growing experiences this. It's a busy life, man.
Yeah.
It's a grind. Business is a grind. And it's a lot of hours. It's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of nights with lack of sleep. And so what if 55 for someone is just, I want to read a book, Mm-hmm. Maybe my grandkids are local, or maybe I got some family that's local. I want to make it to the rec games. I want to go to the middle school games that start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I want to read a book. I want to maybe chill and do some part-time stuff. I think a lot of people want that too.
Yeah, it's not about inactivity, right? It's about the choice of the activities that you want to do. And so, yeah.
Hold on, you gotta say that one more time. That was good.
It was good? Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, I'd say, retirement is not about inactivity. It's about having the freedom and choice to do the activities that you want. And, when I think about my retirement, my financial independence, my financial freedom, I think about giving back. I want to be able to volunteer in more places, give back my time, make it to the ball games, right? Yeah. So read more books, take those golf lessons, right? See parts of the world that I haven't seen, see parts of this country I haven't seen. So I don't see myself, sitting back on my rocking chair, spraying hoses on the kids that are running on my yard or anything of that sort, right? I don't want to be that old man on the yard, but I don't see myself being inactive at all. I'm going to be very active, but it's going to be things that I feel passionate about. Not that I don't have passion about, my vocation, but I think my life is going to be bigger than just my vocation.
Right. Absolutely. And so to do this and to make this happen, we talked about really trying to identify what that cash flow number is. Okay, what does it look like? And trying to articulate how much do I need? Okay, if you're able to do that, and of course there's many tools out there to help someone actually identify that number. At that point, some of the biggest struggles that individuals have that do retire early. The first one, obviously, that comes to mind, I think, for everybody is the cost of health insurance.
Oh yeah,
right. But it's silly to me because I'll have back to what we were talking about at the start of the show. The default, I got to retire. I got to stop working at 65. Why? Well, because I got health insurance. I can't get health insurance well, you can. It just costs more.
Right.
And so then I love posing this question to clients. I'm like, look, you're 63 years old. You're going to retire in 2 years. You can retire and stop working because you've been financially free for 7 years. And you're going to work the next 2 years because of I'm going to put it out there, a $15,000, $16,000 expense over the next 2 years. And I'm like, do you realize you're going to work 40 hours a week for 50 weeks a year for 2 years for a $16,000 expense? I'm like, look, if $16,000 solidifies your plan, you can't retire anyway.
Retire, yeah.
I'm like, stop working. If it's that miserable, be done. Mm-hmm. Pay the bill.
Yeah, just pay the bill.
I'm like, why are we so afraid of paying the health insurance premium? And we feel like we have to wait for Medicare. I'm like, come on.
Yeah. Sometimes, part of what we do, yes, we have fancy charts and spreadsheets and, glossy materials. But I think a lot of what we do is really that reality check, is that third party that is very honest with our clients and it can bring things to light and expose things that they never really thought about. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the big ones where it's like, you can get it. Health insurance is not some hidden treasure that that your employer.
Where am I going to find it at?
Yeah. Either your employer or the government's going to offer you that. These are your only two paths. Yes, it's costly versus what you pay normally, mm-hmm. right? Because your employer is subsidizing most of the costs. But if you plan properly, then, like you said, a $16,000 decision over 2 years, that's $32,000. That's not bad. You can take care of that. Yeah. Right. You can do it.
You can do it.
Yeah.
And on top of that, if you actually plan for it, it could be a lot less expensive. So now that, we take the story of, we're using me, I'm going to retire at 55. I've got time to prepare for that. So in light of knowing that if the healthcare system stays as it is today, and people say, well, maybe it won't. Well, if it doesn't, who cares? But let's plan for what we know to be true now. If it stays the same, then I know what I can do is begin to build and create a bucket of money that can help offset the cost of healthcare and or accomplish subsidy benefits. Okay, so that's a huge value. So as long as I save in a way that's going to create low taxable income, or at least taxable income that I can control when I reach financial freedom and I'm not going to work anymore, then at that point, I can actually get the government to cover mm-hmm. my health insurance.
Good point. Yeah, I brought that up to a client last week, I believe, and she's 62, and her husband's 60. Yeah, and she's getting ready to retire, and health insurance was a question for her. Now, she wasn't worried about the cost of it, but she was just keeping that in mind, mm-hmm. and I talked about that. And, she has enough liquidity on tax-free and just cash alternatives that she can get the subsidy.
Yeah.
And what most people don't know about that is what's defined as income. Things that are defined as income are, some examples are 401ks, distributions from your 401k, distribution from IRAs, obviously rental income, stuff like that. That the normal things that people think of income. Mm-hmm. But think about it. You mentioned tax-free assets. Well, if you pull money from your savings account, That's not income.
Right.
That's not income at all. So if you need, call it $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year for your expenses or for your needs and wants, and you have $200,000, $250,000 sitting in cash, well, maybe you can bridge that gap from 62 to 65 just from pulling assets from your savings account.
Yeah.
And you have no income. She's showing no income, and you could probably satisfy the subsidy.
Yeah, that's it. And like you said, the subsidy really, it cares nothing about how much money you have. It cares nothing about, if you're debt free. It just cares about taxable income.
Yeah.
And so literally we do this every single year. I think for married, just to try to give some real information out there and numbers to kind of go by, I believe the number is you got to be above the poverty level. So you need to create enough income to be above that poverty level. Otherwise, you're going to be qualifying for Medicaid. And that's not really what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to go on healthcare.gov and qualify for a subsidy. So you got to have enough taxable income to be above that poverty level. And then you got to be below, and it's different thresholds because it's a scalable benefit or subsidy. But for full subsidy for couples, and it depends on if you have dependents, but that income level last year was like 35,000, 45,000, something like that. So, you're right. You take someone who, look, you get standard deductions already high.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're talking about generating a reasonable amount of income, right? You can still generate the income from the IRA. You just don't want to generate all the income from the IRA. Let's say you need $100,000. Maybe we go ahead and push out 40 from the IRA, 45, and then we get the standard deduction to pull that taxable income down within that threshold, and then we couple it with a distribution or a dividend from your investment accounts.
Yeah, I mean that's why the one big beautiful bill that was recently passed is so huge because it kept the standard deduction high.
Right. It's a huge benefit.
Yeah.
And then also one other thing about trying to retire early that comes to mind is a lot of times people that do save without preparing, they're just throwing money back in that 401k, man. They're killing it, right? Just throwing it back. Next thing they know, they're like, okay, I know I'm financially free. I know I'm in a position where I don't have to go to work every day. I work over here at Lockheed or Anheuser or Shaw Industries or whatever it may be. And I'm sitting here with $1.7 million in my 401k. I'm debt free. I'm ready to cut it loose. I'm 55, 58 years old. Okay, 57. But I'm not 59 and a half. Okay. So that individual is thinking, there's a 59 and a half rule that I can distribute money from my retirement account, my traditional IRA, before 59 and a half without paying a penalty. Although that's true, that's just for an IRA. That's not true if you leave the money in the retirement account, the 401k.
Yeah, what's that, the 72T?
Right. Yeah, something like that.
I probably lost some people with that. But yeah, that's just the tax.
The 55 rule.
The 55 rule. Yeah, but it basically says if you're 55 years old or older and you leave your money inside and leave your assets in a 401k and you're retired, you can actually take distributions from that and not have to pay the early withdrawal penalty. Now, you still got to pay taxes on it, but you don't have to pay that withdrawal penalty.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's the beauty of it, is you can actually, once again, still save in your retirement accounts if you feel like you don't have time to reform the way in which your assets are structured and still accomplish it. You just don't need to retire and pull all that money out of your retirement account at your employer. You need to leave some there to be able to generate that income without a penalty.
Yeah.
So just a few more things of tangible strategies and concepts that our listeners need to know to be able to actually accomplish financial freedom. Once again, Mo, I got 15 years left. I'm saving. What are some ideas on just buckets, ways to save, saving correctly, risk, anything you can throw off the top of your head that's going to help me out?
Yeah, I'd say, when you talk about bucket strategies, I'd say there's two buckets that you should really, two categories of buckets you should take a look at. One is time horizon. So, you talk about 55 years old, and I think when people think of retiring, they think about their risk, right? Okay, I'm getting ready to retire. I can't take on as much risk as I was taking when I was accumulating because now I'm going to need the assets. Okay, I'm going to need the money. But when you think about this situation, 55 years old, God willing, you have a healthy life. We're talking about, let's say you live to, not to be too morbid, let's say you live to 85, 90. we're talking 30 to 35 years of you needing your assets to provide some form of level of income for you. So in reality, there should be some growth assets within your portfolio, not just anything conservative. So when I say time horizon, I'd say the bucket should be, maybe strategizing, okay, 1 to 3 to 5 years of from 55 to 60, have a bucket of money that's allocated with low risk because you're going to be withdrawing from it, very liquid because you need it. And then bucket 2 is maybe from 5 years to 10 years out. So call it 65, so from 60 to 70, right? Medium growth, moderate growth, because again, that's still a good long time frame around. But then what about Andrew's life from 70 to 85? That's 20 years down the road.
Yeah.
We need some growth behind that. So when I say looking at your buckets time horizon, it's more of just like categorizing these milestones and having a different investment approach towards those milestones. Right,
and it's also having those buckets in mind today, even though I'm a good bit out from that age, right? So I'm 15 years out. I want to get there. I want to have that freedom. So in light of that structure, having those buckets, having the ability to control risk based off the need of money, saving today, I'm thinking, okay, I have the ability to save. I'm max funding my retirement account. I'm max funding a backdoor Roth. I'm considering the purchase of real estate. And really to that individual, the idea is not just to save. So you're doing a great job saving, right? There's plenty of people out there killing it. But we need to save correctly. Right. And the biggest thing that comes to mind when we're talking about correct saving is saving in light of what we think from a taxable perspective about today and forever. Okay, so understanding what the tax picture looks like today, how you should save in relationship to your tax liability, and also in light of what we think is going to be your tax story forever. It's not always the best decision to avoid the tax. It's not always the best decision to pay the tax. So every story is different. And so just making sure that if you're an accumulator, you're sitting there working hard every day and you have the ability to pay yourself, right? Pay yourself the right way.
Yeah.
Slow down to speed up. Think about what you're doing and making sure you do it right.
So you're basically saying, have 3 buckets with respects to taxes. So some assets that are taxable, like you're paying the taxes now, and it could be taxed in the future. So taxable accounts, tax deferred, meaning that you're not paying the taxes today. You're pushing the tax down the later road, and then tax free. You pay the tax today, and that's it.
And it's extremely healthy to have all 3.
Yeah.
Depending on your needs and the time in which it happens. 55, financial freedom. I'm going to pull the reins back, hit an off-ramp to retirement, do some consulting. Great. We need the right vehicle to support cash flow without penalties and, taxes, whatever. You're 62 years old. You want to execute a tax strategy. We want to do some conversions, pay taxes off the back end with some taxable assets. You need to save today in light of what that's going to look like and how you're going to accomplish that. You want to qualify for healthcare subsidies, same thing. So I think to sum up the show, here's the reality of it, okay? Reaching financial freedom is the goal, okay? And the reason it's the goal is because whether you like it or not, you and I know this from meeting with so many different families all across the country. The reality is the biggest stressor, okay, on anybody's life is the fact that they're having to go to work, to get up, to sacrifice, to miss out. And they're doing it because they need the cash flow to cover their life. Sometimes they're stupid spending, but nonetheless, their life. And all conflicts kind of roll from that. Stress in the marriage. What's the number one cause for divorce? And you go through the list, stress on the kids. You can't lead your kids well because you're sitting there having to work extra hours, overtime, all this stuff. So we're really wanting to say to everybody, hit the brakes. Take a moment in your life, right? You work every day. Take a second, start thinking about the future, and start thinking about how can I actually accomplish financial freedom. It doesn't mean I have to make more money. Maybe I need to spend less. Maybe I need to address the debt. Maybe I need to, do whatever it takes. But if that's important, then you got to plan for it.
I love it.
So
That was perfectly said. I love
thanks,
it.
Mo. All right. Well, listen, if you enjoyed the show today, listen, our goal is to bring clarity to your financial life. That's the key in all areas and in all topics. All right. We want you to be financially free, to be successful, and to be able to live the life that you want to live. Make sure you like this channel. Definitely share the show. And more importantly, follow up because we'll have another one coming out to you next week.